Okay, so good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for the first workshop in the Fix at Home Repair series. Tonight we'll be learning about tool use basics. My name is Jen Tremin, and I am with the Atlanta Beltline Partnership, the nonprofit entity for the Atlanta Beltline. As part of our Home and Power workshop series, we work with great partners around the city to deliver informational workshops to help Beltline residents and others, such as yourself, to feel more secure in their homes. We have covered topics like renters' rights, evictions, property tax appeals, how to buy a home, and many more topics. I'm very excited to be partnering with the Atlanta Community Tool Bank, Atlanta Land Trust, and House Proud for this Fix It series this fall, the dates of which you can see on the screen, to teach you some basic home repairs, to help you save some money, and also be more safe inside of your homes. Before we get started, just some quick logistical things. After the training video, you will have a chance to chat with our expert, which is going to be CJ from the Community Tool Bank, and ask some questions. So you can do that by chatting in the Zoom chat box, or if you're joining us on Facebook, you can enter into the comment section there, and we'll try to get to as many as possible as we can in these 45 minutes. So I'm also excited to say that after the workshop, we will be gifting 20 stocked toolbox to registered attendees. So I will randomize those of you that signed up and send you an email tomorrow morning to let you know if you've won and the details on how to pick those up. We will also be partnering with the Tool Bank to get you guys part of their tool lending program, where you can rent some tools for your home repairs at a great low cost and, get all these repairs that you're learning done. So just stay tuned to our follow-up email after the workshop for more information on how to get a part of that program. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Lisa with House Proud, then Karen with the Atlanta Land Trust to do some quick introductions, and then CJ will kick us off with the training.
All right, thank you so much, Jen. My name is Lisa Flowers Jones. I'm the Executive Director of House Proud Atlanta. We're a small nonprofit located in Southwest Atlanta, and we provide no-cost repairs for seniors, the disabled, and veterans, anything to keep them warm, safe, and dry in their homes. So think roofing, plumbing, electrical, floor stabilization, beautification. Some of you might have seen us out in the community with our big blue truck with the House Proud logo on the side, helping your senior neighbors or some seniors that you might know. If you have senior neighbors that you think might need some help, we do have funding for the area right around the old Turner Field, Atlanta's West Side, and for vets. So feel free to check out our website at houseproudatlanta.org. You can find all of my contact information there. And also, I'm just really honored and pleased and excited to be partnering with Beltline to help put on this Fix That home repair series. So look forward to hearing from you. I know it's going to be an awesome training series, and thanks you guys for coming out.
Great. Karen, you want to give a quick introduction?
There we are. Good evening, everyone. I'm Karen Babineau. I'm the Stewardship Manager at the Atlanta Land Trust. And the Atlanta Land Trust is a nonprofit organization that delivers stewards permanently affordable housing. And we support inclusive, equitable communities near the Atlanta Beltline and in other areas of the city of Atlanta. So we're very excited to partner with the organizations tonight on tonight's call, and hopefully some of our homeowners are on the call, and we're looking for new homeowners. We have a monthly buyer information session that's coming up this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and we have a presentation about the land trust and helpful information that will educate you on our process. And anyone who's interested, I have put my contact information in the chat. You can contact me and if you have any questions. So we're happy to be on and really excited about this particular session.
Hi, everyone. My name is CJ Clark, and I'm with the Atlanta Community Tool Bank, and I am also very honored and proud that I can be here today in this incredible partnership. And I think it's going to be a good learning series for each of you. And tonight, I'm very willing to answer any questions, and we'll even share an email address to answer questions later. But real quick about the Tool Bank. We're a nonprofit. The idea of the Tool Bank started in 1991 with a group of individuals that got together that wanted to help some folks out on home repairs. The Tool Bank today is a nonprofit that loans tools out to other nonprofits for service projects. And we have about 280 different tool types, and the different types of projects that folks do can be anything from events, builds, river cleanups, plantings, neighborhood cleanups, and we're even helping people with COVID relief type projects also. House Pride Atlanta was originally with us, and they went off on their own in 2011, and we're proud that they can still live with us, and they're in our building, so we are housed together. And some of the nonprofits, I'll give you an example of some of them that are member agencies with us. One of them I happen to know about is the Atlanta Beltline Partnership. Another one would be House Pride Atlanta. And think of some of the other nonprofits that you may see sometimes around Atlanta, like Trees Atlanta, Park Pride, Hands on Atlanta, you may be familiar with them. Habitat, of course, West Atlanta Watershed Alliance, they are member agencies with us. And churches and neighborhood associations are also member agencies with us. With that, I want to go ahead and turn it back over to Jen to start the video about the tools. And remember, if you have any questions, just go ahead and put them in the chat. You'll see that down at the bottom of your screen. Okay, Jen.
Sorry, everyone. We'll try this again with audio. One moment.
Welcome to the Atlantic.
Alrighty, let's get this started again.
Welcome to the Atlanta Community Tool Bank's Tool Training Center. Let's spend the next few minutes talking about some of the very basic tools that are part of our toolbox. We're going to start off with the hammer. This is a claw hammer. This is the head of the hammer. This is the claw. This would be the face of the hammer. You got the handle, and you have the grip. Talking about grip, how do you grip the hammer? Pretend like someone's reaching out to shake your hand, and that's the hammer handle. That's how you want to grip your hammer. Okay, so now let's talk about some techniques for using the hammer. There's a couple of them. One of them is a wrist technique. It kind of goes like this. Another one is an elbow technique. Kind of goes like this. When you're using the elbow technique, you're getting a lot of strength. Wrist technique, you're getting a lot of accuracy. Then you can put the two together, and then you got the most effective type of nailing. Now, let's talk about the nail. Making contact with the face and the head of the nail. When you do that, you really want to make sure that the head of the hammer is perpendicular and straight up and down, creates a straight line to this head. Does that make sense? And if you're looking at it this way, you want to make sure it's also straight. meaning you don't want the hammer to maybe tip up or to tip back. You want to make sure it hits square, making that straight line. And in the front view, you want to make sure you're not hitting it a little awkward and a little sideways like this. Straight up and down. That's the way you want to do that. Okay, so now let's talk about nailing into wood. For holding your nail, you want to hold it just up under the head. And then when you put it on the wood, you want to make sure that you're holding it nice and square to the wood, that you're not tilting it in any direction. Nice and square, straight up and down. So you're going to hold it right up under the head, then you're going to place it, you're going to tap it a couple times to get it started, and then you can pull your hand away and then really hammer a little bit harder on that nail. If you're really nervous about potentially hitting your fingers, use the old clothespin trick. Just take a clothespin and put it around the nail, and then you can start it without the worry of hitting your fingers. Spirit levels, also known as bubble levels, work because of gravity. I'm going to show you with this cup of water how gravity makes this water sit level. Now, when I start tipping this over, we all know that that water is going to start spilling out of there because the water wants to remain level, but I'm tipping the cup over. So eventually, that water is going to tip out of there. That's just an example of how level works. With this 2-foot level, there's a vial in the center. This vial is engineered with a curve in it so that when the bubble inside of it is perfectly in between the two marks, the surface that it's on is perfectly level. Perpendicular to that would be plumb. You can do the same thing with plumb, like a door jamb. Just use this vial up here. There are many applications for using a level in your home every day. Some of those could be leveling your stove or leveling your refrigerator. Maybe you're putting a picture up and you want to make sure it looks good. Maybe you're installing a shelf and you want to get it perfectly level. Just as an example of how to use a level, we're going to take this toolbox. We've got a level on top of it, and we see that it's at a level. I'm going to use shims to help level it. For shims, I'm just going to use some business cards. Let's get a little closer so you can see where that bubble is. We can see that the bubble is way to the left of the two lines. So if we pick it up a little on this right side, we see it levels out. So that means we need to pick the right side of this toolbox up. So I'm going to take a small stack of business cards, put under the right side, and I see that we got a lot better, but we still got a little bit further to go. So I'm going to take a smaller stack, add to that. Wow, we got it right on with just 2 tries. So that's a good example of how to use a level. If you were leveling your refrigerator or stove, you would just find the bolt that's up underneath it and tighten it or loosen it to level. A picture is even easier. Just make small adjustments. I hope this helps you with projects of leveling things in your home. The stud sensor, a tool that's had a bad reputation as one that just doesn't work properly. But just like its male counterpart, it's just not understood. So today, I'm going to help you to learn a little bit about this tool and make it work for you. I'm going to assume that we're working with a sheetrock wall that's no thicker than 3/4 of an inch, and we have wooden studs. This sensor is a Zircon HD55. That's the one that we're going to be talking about today. A few rules that you should follow. Make sure that you keep your stud sensor flat onto the wall, onto your sheetrock wall. Also, try not to put any body part or another hand or anything on the wall while you're using the stud sensor. Don't turn the stud sensor either sideways or even upside down. Make sure you keep it straight up and down, parallel, and the scanning goes in a right and left direction. Also know that this stud sensor will not work on plaster and lath walls. It will only work on the gypboard or sheetrock walls that we're talking about today. I also want you to make sure that you stick to stud scan. don't go into the deep scan. That's just not needed for the application that we will be doing today. Using the scanner is quite simple. We're going to start out by working right underneath the tape that we've already applied. We're going to hold the power button down that's on the side. We'll hear a slight beep, and then we'll see a ready come on. That means that the tool is calibrated and ready to go. You can start moving the tool to the right or to the left. I'm going to move to the left, and I'm going to start by moving slowly. I know that I'm approaching a stud, but we don't want a concealed wall. So as I approach, the target lights on the edges are starting to come in, and the red light shoots on, and we actually even see an arrow. Take your pencil and draw a little line right where that arrow is. Continue past the stud. Now, not releasing your finger, keep your finger on the button. Start going back in this other direction. Again, we see these lights approaching, and we draw a line, and we can see how accurate that really was. And between these two lines, that's the center of the stud. That puts the center of the stud about there. That looks pretty accurate to me. Now, what if you have electric in your wall? This sensor actually does detect electric, but I will tell you, it does get a little tricky when electric comes into play. It can even throw this off a little bit. So this is where knowing that 16-inch centers are very helpful, knowing how the wall is laid out. I drew this little diagram on my whiteboard to show you just a little bit about basic framing. Wood framing consists of studs. They're 2x4s. 2x4s are 1.5 inches thick and 3.5 inches wide. We'll be working with the 1.5 inch thick side. Studs are typically placed on 16-inch centers. That is the most common. Every once in a while in an older home, you'll find studs that are placed on a 24-inch center. More than likely, your studs will be on a 16-inch center. Knowing that is important. If you start having issues locating studs, just knowing that they're 16 inches on center could help you verify the location of the stud. Notice the window framing to the right. That's very typical. You notice how two studs can be doubled up. If you're around a window and you're maybe working below the window looking for a stud, you could potentially expect to find a double stud in that manner. Now let's go back to the simulated wall. Scan a large portion of your wall. That way you kind of get to see the layout. You get to see those 16-inch centers, and that might help you to overcome any confusion that might arise as a result of electric being in the wall. To show you an example of what happens with electric in the wall, I have an extension cord. I'm going to set it alongside this 2x4. I'm going to start just like we did before. Push my button, and my ready light's on. I'm going to start moving to the left. I see that these bars are already shining. They're already moving in. The electric light is in a triangle, is already lit up. It's flashing. We know we're before the stud because we can see it right here. All my bars are up, but the electric triangle warning is flashing. I did just get to where the stud starts, just like we found before, but it was a little confusing. I did this earlier, and the reading of this cord, I could not even tell where the beginning of the stud was. That makes me think if I'm doing this in a wall where I can't see that I have this 2x4 here, I want to scan the whole wall. I want to go to either side of this. Maybe when I work from this side over, it'll react a little differently. Let's try that. Ready lights on. Just like before, it did pick up the stud, and now I'm starting to see the triangle electric warning light. It's gone off and on a few times. So that's a little bit confusing. But knowing where those other studs are helps you to know in this reading where this stud really is. Knowing that this stud is 16 inches from this one helps you to be able to get a positive mark on exactly where that stud is. I hope this was helpful to you. The tape measure. This is a 25-foot Stanley Black & Decker Power Lock tape measure. The case on it is a heavy-duty plastic. The blade on it is curved. It's curved so that you can do a standout with it to a certain distance. This particular tape measure, you can do a standout up to 7 feet. I'm going to try that. I'm going to go up to 7 feet. I'm going to gently hold my forefinger on that, and indeed it does stand out at the 7 feet. Now I'm going to pull it out a little bit further to see what happens. Didn't make it past 7 feet, and it is rated for 7 feet, so it did what it said it would do. When you're pulling the tape measure back in and retracting it, put your forefinger on the bottom of the steel. That'll help slow it down so that when it snaps back in, it doesn't pinch your finger. This is the hook that's on the blade. It's riveted with 1/16 inch of play. If you pull back and forth on it, you kind of feel how it goes back and forth. That's intentional. It does that so you can get accurate measurements on a distance, whether you're pushing this into a corner or clipping it over. I'm going to show you that real quick. These two boards are exactly 12 inches apart. So an example of clipping over an edge, I can show you right here, and we're right at 12 inches on this edge. An example of pushing into a corner there, and you can see we are still right at the 12 inches. This is the thumb lock on the tape measure. You can use it to lock the blade at any distance. I'm going to show you a way to use this thumb lock and also utilize the case of the tape measure to take a measurement from inside corner to inside corner. If you look on the back of your tape measure, you'll see it says +3 inches from here to here. That means you can take your tape measure, you can put it on an inside corner and put the other end up to here, lock it in place, and then the tape measure will read to you the exact measurement from inside corner to inside corner. And the way it works is, I'm going to get a little closer, you'll see you got 9 inches there. 9 plus 3 is 12, and as we already know, that is the measurement between those two corners. There's also a belt clip on your tape measure. The belt clip is very handy if you like to clip it to you and walk around with it. You don't have to use it though. In fact, some people who use a pouch, they opt to remove this belt clip. It's easy to do. There's just a little screw on the back. Just undo that screw, and you can save this and put it back on later if you care to. To truly master the use of a tape measure, you need to understand fractions. We will not go over fractions today, but if you do a Google search on the easiest way to learn fractions, you'll find lots of great tutorials there. On this close-up of a tape measure, we can see how each foot is marked by a big black arrow. Looks almost like a house. There's the 1 foot and there's the 2 foot mark. Every 16 inches, there is a red box around the number. This is for carpenters who lay out framing. It is standard for studs to be laid out on 16-inch centers. You can read a tape measure in just inches by following these black numbers that are on the bottom. If you are, say, measuring 20 inches, you could also measure that in feet and inches by going back to the nearest foot. There's the 1 foot, and then on the top, you have 8 inches. So 20 inches is the equivalent of 1 foot and 8 inches. You can use your tape measure as a scribe. There are 2 ways of doing that. One way is to hold the tape measure on the edge of the board. We're going to hold it right at 12 inches. Then you can grab onto the hook side and just score it right down. You can do that in a pinch when you maybe don't have a pencil. If you have a pencil, another way to do the scribe is to take your tape measure, set it at your desired length. In this case, it's going to be 12 inches. We're going to use this edge to run up and down. Then we're going to take our pencil and we're going to put it inside that little ellipse that's on the end of that hook. Hold against the edge of your board, inside the ellipse with your pencil, hold it steady, slide it down. Have you ever noticed the slot that's at the end of this hook? That's handy for a couple different things. One of the things is if you're by yourself, you need to get a measurement. You can hold one end by putting a fastener in, hooking into that little slot, and then clipping it, pull your tape measure to wherever you need to, and go ahead and draw your mark at your desired length. You can also draw a circle or an arc. Just put the clip into the notch, hold your pencil onto the desired measurement, and swing it around. Short distance for an arc, all the way around for a circle. Another handy bit of knowledge about a tape measure is if you're ever in a position where you have a box and you have to square it up, the measurement from one diagonal corner to another in a box is the same when a box is perfectly square. This is a good example I have up here. Right now, you can just tell by looking at this box that the measurement from this corner to this corner, it's about 19, and the measurement from this corner to this corner, it's about 15. They're different, and we can just look at this and tell that it's not square. So let's start getting it squared up. That looks fairly square to me. Now let's check it. From this corner, I've got 17 1/8, and from this corner, I've got 16 7/8. It's a little bit different. So I'm going to move it over just a little bit more. In fact, I'm going to make it hit 17 on this corner. I have a feeling that's going to be right. And it is. 17 from corner to corner. You got the same measurement, and now we have a perfect square. In a pinch, you can also use a tape measure as a straight edge. Just be sure to use light pressure with a pencil, and there you go. Got a straight line. I hope that I've given you what you need to measure up with your tape measure. The number 2 Phillips screwdriver is the most common screwdriver in the United States. Within the category of Phillips screwdrivers, there's 3 main sizes, a number 1, a number 2, and a number 3. It's really important to check with your screw and your driver to make sure that they're sized properly for each other. This is the number 1 Phillips screw head and the driver bit. This is the number 2 Phillips screw head and the driver bit. This is the number 3 Phillips screw head and its driver bit. Using the correct one makes the difference in easily securing your fastener or stripping out your fastener, making it ineffective. So when you're using a screwdriver, you want to make sure that you push down firmly, lots of pressure, and that you turn in the appropriate direction for putting the screw in or pulling the screw out. If you're putting the screw in, you want to go to the right. The old rule, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So the next time someone asks you for a screwdriver, you'll know to say flat, Phillips, or vodka. Pliers and wrenches. While they can be interchanged for multiple uses, you really should make sure you are using the best tool for the job so you work safely, efficiently, and don't bugger up your workpiece. Your first choice for nuts and bolts should be the proper size box wrench, open wrench, or combination wrench. Here's an example of each: the open wrench, the box wrench, and the combination wrench. With this bolt, the proper size wrench is this 9/16. It's a combination wrench, so I can use either side of it. I can either use this box side or this open side to tighten this up. This metric 15mm wrench will work until it starts getting real tight. When it starts getting real tight, it's going to start slipping over the corners, rounding these corners off until eventually the bolt cannot even be removed with the proper wrench. The pipe wrench. Use it only on objects that do not have flat sides, like pipes. The jaws will scratch and mar the surface of anything you tighten or loosen with this. The pipe wrench is also known as a monkey wrench. The components of the pipe wrench are the adjustable hook jaw, the stationary jaw, the knurled adjustment knob, the I-beam handle, and a handy hole for hanging. Here's an example of how to use the pipe wrench with this iron pipe cap. I've already adjusted the size on this. You want to just gently push it around the direction that we want to push in, like so, to tighten. This is the right direction to hold the wrench at. You can see how as you turn it, the jaws tighten up on it and clamp down on it as you spin it. So the next time you see a gorilla that needs to be fixed, you should know to grab your monkey wrench. I know that these are very basic tools that we have talked about, but hopefully I have offered you something new for your toolbox. I'll be happy to answer any questions through the chat, or feel free to email me. I hope I nailed it for you.
Great, thank you, CJ, for that very informative video. Sorry about the sound in the beginning, but we got to figure it out. So now if anyone has any questions for CJ, please feel free to enter them into the chat box and she'll do her best.
Yeah, I'm sorry about the sound on that. It made it a little bit hard to follow, but I think you kind of got the point. And sorry about the dry jokes.
I will also email out the video for everyone to watch, not over Zoom, so hopefully it gets a little bit more smooth. So CJ, we have a question of what is the best application for a crescent wrench?
A crescent wrench. I wish I had a crescent wrench with me right here to show you. And what I am familiar with as a crescent wrench is a wrench that you can kind of slide it, and it makes it kind of adjust. And we talked a little bit about the monkey wrench, the pipe wrench. The crescent wrench is often used for plumbing purposes, can be easily slid into a different length. And I've seen it used for when you got to have a nut that you have to undo maybe for plumbing, and it doesn't have sides. So it's got the jaws on it are a little rough. You don't want to use it on something that's finished. So you want to use it on something that you may not see. Something that's hidden, because it will, just like the pipe wrench will mar up a surface, that crescent wrench jaws will do the same. Okay, I hope that answered the question for the person that was asking that. And
great, so next up we have the differences between a box wrench and an open wrench and different applications for those types.
okay, really, it's a subtle difference. So the box wrench is, just like it sounds, it's closed. It's a closed wrench. And then the open wrench is just like it sounds. It's got an open side. One of the advantages to me with the box wrench, you can kind of get it around that nut and get it in many different directions. And then the side that's open, you gotta move it around a little more to fit it right in. But if you're pushing really hard on something, it's probably better to use the open end side because you're using more pressure. But honestly, for most uses for homeowners, either one. I find it I just personally find it a little bit easier to use the open end. And I hope that answered that question.
Great, so next up, someone wanted to know the name of the screwdriver, I think maybe the one that you're using in the video, and then any recommendations for a beginning toolbox or things to put in the toolbox.
Yeah, that's a good question. The one that we talked about is simply the #2 Phillips screwdriver, and a toolbox should absolutely have maybe even more than one of these, just in case it starts going bad, because this is what you're mostly going to use is a number 2 Phillips screwdriver. And you will, and of course, having that slotted, that straight one is always a good idea. I have found with most things that you're doing around the home, you could have a number 1, a number 2, and the number 3 screwdriver is pretty big. And most things around the home, you're just not going to need it for. You may have that occasional need, but if for starting out on a toolbox, I wouldn't even bother with it. But what I would put in it is you got after the number 1, you can go through down to a 0, and you can, I think you can go all the way down to like a triple or a four zeros, which is like a micro Phillips screw. And you don't necessarily need one of those, but having one that's smaller, the 0 or 00, is very handy for home purposes, because you sometimes find little screws, like maybe in a bathroom on a towel bar I've seen, like underneath there's a tiny Phillips screw, or maybe on some kind of appliance or something where you want to undo a screw. Did I hit all the questions on that one?
Yes, and then if there's just any other tools for beginning toolbox?
It kind of has to do with types of things you have around your house. The toolbox that we're offering has got a hammer, a tape measure, it's a stud finder, it's got vice grip pliers, which are very handy for when you're in a pinch. You don't want to use these on something that's metal that has edges like a bolt. You want to use that open end or close end wrench on a bolt and use the right size so you don't strip it. I would definitely want a hammer, and honestly, you don't need any big fancy hammers. A 16-ounce, either a straight claw or curved claw, doesn't matter. 16 ounces pretty standard for a homeowner use hammer. Very affordable these days at Home Depot. And if you can afford to go into power tools and maybe a battery operated tool, for me, I find that the handiest tool that's battery operated for homeowners is a cordless drill. And there are some more affordable ones out there available these days at Home Depot. And I hope that answers that question.
So you're kind of leading into some of the other questions that we got. So I'm going to bounce around a little bit, but I promise to answer some of the other ones that did come first. So someone asked how you feel about a power screwdriver versus a regular screwdriver.
A what screwdriver?
Power screwdriver.
A power screwdriver. Well, that would be similar to what I just said with the cordless drill. A lot of people will use the cordless drill as a power screwdriver. And the way I feel about it is this: if you're doing something where your screw is in real tight, you got to put a lot of pressure on it, start with a hand screwdriver and really push down on it and turn. Make sure you're inside that slot really good. Make sure you're using the right size screwdriver, because you take the chance of potentially stripping the screw out. If you strip a screw out, I got to tell you, it's really difficult to recover from that. There are some things you can do. And in fact, one thing I've done with a stripped screw is I've taken these pliers and have gotten out of jams with them where I've had just enough of the screw head sticking up, and I've been able to wrap these pliers around it and undo the screw. And as far as do I solely use, I love, of course, you know, who wouldn't want to just use that power screwdriver? I love using it, but occasionally if I'm worried about maybe when I'm screwing something in and I'm in something that's maybe a little delicate, when I get towards the end of where that screw's getting almost in all the way, sometimes you got to be careful with the power screwdriver. Sometimes it might go in a little too far, or it might start stripping it out. Sometimes when you get with some of the delicate things, you're better to be a little more patient and use that hand screwdriver. I hope that answered that question.
Great. So next on the tool, well, it's all about tools, but someone asked, there are some tools that are designed to be a lighter weight. Do you know anything about where you can find this style, and if that's even good to use because it is lighter?
According to what the tool is, and for instance, this is a lightweight pipe wrench, and plumbers, man, they used to really earn their money when they had to use these in the days of a lot of galvanized pipe and such. So they probably would have loved to have been able to use this lighter weight, and it did not sacrifice the quality. And I'm trying to think of other tools that you might be, if you want to mention a specific tool in the chat, I'd be happy to talk about that specific one. And then where do you get them? You can find some of the lighter weight tools at the depot. And
Question mentioned hammers specifically.
Specifically the hammers. That's a very good question. And hammers, I showed you a little bit about those hammering techniques, and I gotta tell you, this 16-ounce hammer is not that heavy if you kind of get used to using it. And they sell much heavier hammers than this. But this hammer right here, this is a 7-ounce hammer. I have these in our tool training center, and when it's not time of COVID, I can have people in here. I like having kids in here, and they can use this size hammer pretty easily. And since I have them laying around here all over the place, I often pick this hammer up and use it. And I got to tell you, I can be just as effective with this hammer as I can be with this hammer with most things that I do. So yeah, it's still effective. And you can get this hammer. This hammer is available at Home Depot. There's I'm pretty sure this Stanley version is available, and I'm pretty sure that there's a wooden version of it that's also available.
Great. So I'm going to combine the next two questions because they're both similar. So the first part is there a stud finder for plaster? And that you can answer that, and I'll give you the follow-up.
Okay. All right. That's a difficult question to answer. In my experience, I have not used a stud finder for plaster and lath, and I'm assuming that that's probably what you're talking about, as I know there's a lot of older homes in Atlanta that have the plaster and lath walls. I used to own one of them. I still own one of them, and I love the walls. I love that beautiful look that's a little bit uneven, and I struggled for a long time with that. Here's what I found in the past. There's a tool that it is actually a stud finder. It's not electronic. It's like a little magnet. I wish I had one that I could actually show you with me, but it's a little magnet. So it's inside of a little plastic cube, and you take that, and the little magnet is on a pivot. It pivots back and forth, and you take that, and you just kind of start running around on your wall. And the one thing about the plaster and lath walls is on that wood lath, they had to use nails to get that lath in. So what that does is eventually you're going to move that around. You're going to start seeing that magnet. It's going to start wiggling around a little bit. And when that magnet when it starts standing straight as you move back and forth, you just hit a nail. If you hit a nail, there's got to be a stud behind it. So hopefully that's helpful. That's what I used to do for finding the studs in my plaster and lath walls. And then what I told you earlier about the 16-inch centers, take a piece of tape and put it across your whole wall and do that finding, and then mark on that tape where you find your studs and start measuring them out, and you'll start noticing a pattern, and that'll help you too, to help, find where those studs are located.
So it sounds like you may have just answered the follow-up question, but I'll just read it aloud just in case. So in an older home with these plaster walls that you're familiar with, would you expect a 16 or 24-inch stud spacing?
Good question. I actually used to do renovation work, and I had my own company, and I loved working on older homes. And even the older homes that I worked on, I rarely came across the 24-inch centers, but I did a few times. And a few times in Grant Park, I think I ran across some homes that had the 24-inch centers. So it does happen, doesn't happen very often.
Great. So feel free to do any last minute questions since we are coming up on time, but I do want to save this one question for the end that I'll read aloud because it's a great way to finish. So David asked us if the tool bank rents to homeowners for general use. And I am very excited to say that I don't think typically they have in the past, but now with our new program, we are going to allow Beltline and workshop attendees to rent through the Atlanta Beltline Partnership so they are able to get tools in their homes. We're working out the very minute details, and I should have it all wrapped up tomorrow. So just look out for our follow-up email. And if you're interested, you can just let me know, and we'll get you all squared away with the tool bank.
Well, you pretty much answered that question, but I mean, I know I can fill in and confirm that, yeah, we're not allowed to loan to individuals and for home use. And that's been important to us to protect our nonprofit. Our funders Home Depot is a big funder of ours. And that would kind of be a conflict of interest. So we haven't been able to loan tools out to individuals, but I'm really happy that with this partnership and going through the Beltline, that there is going to be an opportunity to do that while this class is going on. So I'm very excited about that, and I hope you guys can take advantage of that for some of your projects.
Yes, it's very exciting. So I don't see any other questions, but of course you know where to find all of us through our emails, and you'll receive a follow-up email from me tomorrow. So feel free to respond and let us know if you have any other questions. But thank you so much for your time and bearing with our technology issues there, but we'll send out the video as well. And then thank you to CJ, our expert. And please make sure to join us for our next workshop in the series. I believe it's September 23rd, same time, same place, on drywall repair. And that's it for us. So thank you guys and have a great evening.
Hi, everyone.